Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unique Holiday Experiences audio series. This is the snippets episode, so you won't be getting the full audio series unless you have already registered. It actually went live this past Wednesday, which means it is now available to register for just $9 so that you can dive in so much deeper than just this snippets episode. So if you haven't heard a snippets episode before, for all the past audio series, I usually like to add like about 5 minutes from each of them so that you get a little bit of juiciness. And if you want to get some more, then you go ahead and join over at the private podcast feed where you can listen to all the interviews in depth. This audio series does feature there's so many industry greats here. We have Margie Jordan, Tom Carpenter, Danella Richard, Jonathan, or Jono for short, McKee, and then we also have Renata, or Ren for short, West. And it was a really fun time, not only talking with them about their holiday memories, but also some of their favorite experiences, travel experiences all around the world. So we're going to dive in deep before that. But I know we are at the heels of Christmas. I don't know how many of you celebrate Christmas. I'm a big Christmas celebrator, so Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful and lovely holiday. At the heels of Christmas, then we also have Kwanzaa. So happy Kwanzaa for all of you that celebrate. It is such a magical time of year, and this episode is like a really like cherry on top to everything that is going on. So don't worry about like listening to in-depthly about strategies. This is really to get you dreaming, give you some inspiration, and then also give you some insider tips for either yourselves, for your own personal bucket list, or for your clients who have been dying to visit some of these amazing locations all around the world. We're literally going to go from north to south and east to west and everywhere in between within this audio series. Also, I did want to remind you, if you didn't already see, I am hosting a lead magnet workshop, and that is going to be Thursday, January 4th from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you've been confuzzled about figuring out your next or your first lead magnet, you'll want to be sure to join us for the lead magnet workshop, where we can give you a little bit of a brief overview, troubleshoot right there in the call, and then get you starting to write out or sound out whatever it might be your lead magnet, but get you starting to implement there in the workshop as well, so that you leave away with either a full new lead magnet or the very beginning, so that you can finish that off on your own time as well. So the link will be down below. I would love to see you there. It is right at the beginning of the new year, so we can start the new year right. And if you don't have a lead magnet already up in anticipation of wave season, this is going to be a really great way to get that lead magnet ready for all those sales. So without further ado, let's get on to our first interview with Margie Jordan.
Tanzania particularly was interesting and different for me. I've been on safari multiple times, but Tanzania is different. And the reason I say it's different, because first off, Tanzania is dusty.
Oh.
I can't even tell you the sheer amount of dust and sand that blew and we inhaled, especially in the Serengeti, especially in the crater. When I tell you blowing dust, I would pick up my purse and it was brown. Just like, oh my God, what is happening? You would have to, at the end of every day, I mean, just even like cleaning out your ears and the amount of dust. So I would probably tell a client, just bring a face mask, because you're in a Jeep and you're trying to see animals, the windows are open and dust just blows. And you're just kind of sucking all that in. Face mask would help. Face mask. I didn't realize that. But the other thing, this was my first time in the Serengeti. And, it's everybody's goal to do a safari in the Serengeti. And I firmly believe that the best time to do that is during the migration. But the Serengeti is massive, okay? Massive. You could be driving 20, 25 minutes before you see anything. It's big. It's really, really big. So if I had clients who had it on their bucket list, this is their one time to go to Africa, they're going on a safari. Hey, I want to see all the big five. I wouldn't start in the Serengeti unless it's
Mm,
great migration, because you would need multiple days to wander through that Serengeti. I think somebody told us the Serengeti was the size of Belgium. I'm like, wait, what? Yes,
I
your
didn't
reaction was
think.
mine.
Yeah, the size of a country is the savannah.
We at one point were actually lost in the Serengeti. We made a joke out of it in our Jeep. We were like making it a Netflix episode and saying lost in the Serengeti featuring Margie Jordan, Eddie Simmons, and we were naming off everybody in there. But we were trying to find this new property, a newer property that we were staying at. And we, of course, there's no road signs, street signs in the Serengeti, right?
Right.
We were trying to figure out where it was, and we happened upon it was, and the sun was starting to set. So
Mm,
we happened upon a new resort that wasn't ours, but it was beautiful. I took pictures of it. It was beautiful, and there was nobody there. It was like deserted. So it made our little episode of Lost in the Serengeti even more fun. Here we stumbling upon this deserted, resort. It looked beautiful, but
I love that.
we ran into some lions, and there was another safari jeep around the lions, and it just happened to be a safari jeep to the place we were going to, so we
That's
just followed
funny.
them the rest of the way. But it is so
That's
massive.
funny.
So if your client's bucket list is to see the big five, you really need to rethink where you're sending them and how much time they have,
Mm-hmm.
because the Serengeti, you're going to need some days. You're
Right.
going to need some days. I would probably pick a smaller park and let them have that experience, and then maybe send them to a Serengeti, maybe one or two safaris in the Serengeti, so they can, hey, I've been there, and check it off my list. But
Mm-hmm.
it would not be the place I would start them, at least not initially, if they wanted to see the big five in one trip. Wouldn't do it.
These are bomb tips that you're dropping. So thank you so much. Um, when you're thinking of your own like holiday destination bucket list, what's on there? What's the next big destination you'd like to experience?
So my list is different because I'm a culture girl.
Mm-hmm.
So one place, I'm a little sad about all the things happening in Israel, because Israel was high on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, Namibia is pretty high on my list.
Oh.
I recently have added Ethiopia to the list.
Ooh.
Um, I do have some interest in going to Iran.
Okay.
Um, Saudi is on the list, and uh, Philippines is on the list.
Nice.
But there's this trip. And if anybody's listening that can get me on the trip, call me. But there is a trip to the South Pole, and
Oh.
it is so uber lux, because it is probably a six-figure trip, easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my list, but there's one other, Rita, there's one really big trip that I want to take. I want to be the
Ooh.
first travel advisor in space.
So, if there's any industry people that are connected with space travel or space tourism companies, please make sure to reach out to us so that we can go ahead and get Margie Jordan to be the first travel advisor in space. Can you tell that was an amazing, and that was just like 5 minute snippets from Margie. Like, we talk about Diwali, we talk about going into an undersea restaurant. I mean, we just touched on so many really unique experiences that you or your clients can have. You will definitely want to tune in to Margie's interview if you haven't already. So let's move on to another friend in the industry, Mr. Tom Carpenter. Having the experience of both North and South, what would you say is the difference between the different poles, and like why people would visit them differently or at a different points in their life?
Totally different. Uh, so when we went to Antarctica many, many years ago, um, the first the first day we were there, we were just like, "Oh, look, it's penguins," and then by
Yeah.
day three, we were like, "Oh, it's more penguins." But the cool thing about when we went, which was in late December, early January, we had midnight sun at New Year's Eve, which was crazy, crazy,
Ooh.
crazy fun. But we also had when we first like at the beginning of our trip, all of the penguins were just starting to hatch, and then as we came further north, you could see them like every time we went on land, they were a little bit bigger and starting to venture out of the nest. And by the time we got at the end of our trip up the peninsula, we were kind of able to see like the whole like first however many weeks of development because they
Mhm.
hatched later in the south, and then we were kind of like ahead of the game a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain. That was really cool. In the north, in Svalbard, we saw polar bears every single day,
No way.
and they're terrifying because if we would do a landing, there were times when they'd be like, "All right, we're get back to the Zodiacs. We got to get back to the ship, or back to the ship." And the polar bears swim too. So like if you're on the land, they could be in the water. If you're in the water in a Zodiac, you don't necessarily want to, I mean, it's as much for their safety as for yours, right? Like
Right.
you disrupt their normal doing their thing. But the wildlife was a lot more diverse in the Arctic region. Walruses, seals, Arctic fox, reindeer, we saw all of it. Lots and lots of wildlife, crazy glaciers. Like if you've done an Alaska cruise and you thought those glaciers were cool,
Hmm.
just amazing glaciers. In Antarctica too. I mean, whales. They're different, but they're both totally worthwhile.
Yeah, no, it's interesting like to hear the differences in both of the regions because I was going to ask like is there wildlife as rich as what would be in Antarctica? Would you say there's more like flora and fauna in the north compared to being down south?
Well, for animals, there's a wider range in the north.
Okay.
In the south, you get seals, sea lions, whales, lots and lots of penguins, and lots of seabirds. In the north, you don't get any penguins,
Hmm.
but you get polar bears, and you get walrus and seals and sea lions um, and lots of seabirds as well. Um, Reindeer, Arctic foxes. There's a little more diversity in terms of the wildlife. No plants to speak of in either direction because
Okay.
you're north of the tree zone where it's pretty much permafrost. So
Okay.
in Antarctica, like I think the only plant life they have are maybe some mosses here and there, but that's about it.
Oh, fun. Okay. All right. So, I feel like that is a unique holiday destination in itself because we're talking about cold, and I just think of all the different claymation Christmas movies because I'm a Christmas goer and like thinking about, like at the poles, and then I also think about like the misers, heat miser, and
Yeah,
all the different characters of those. Um,
yeah,
when
I love those.
yeah, I was like, I could start singing their songs right now.
Well, we got about as close to Santa Claus as you possibly could on that trip.
Yeah. What else would you say is a holiday destination that you visited before, either around the holidays or throughout the years that not a lot of people think about?
Well, I feel like even though people are focused on Christmas markets, especially for river cruises, I don't think people have their eye on Europe as much as they should for the holidays.
Boy, did I tell you, we are going all across the globe in this audio series. So we've gone Africa, there's a little bit of Asia also with Margie. Then we've gone to both North and South poles and touched just briefly on Europe, and you'll want to make sure to tune into Tom's episode because he does expound a lot on different resorts and different luxury experiences that you or your clients can have while they're in Europe for the holidays. So make sure you're tuned to that. Next up, we're gonna go a little bit more further and maybe a little close to home. I know we go to a lot of places in Danella's episode, so listen in on this snippet to see where we're gonna go with Danella Richard.
I was recently on American Queen voyages on the American Countess from Memphis, sailing from Memphis to New Orleans, the Lower Mississippi itinerary. Now, I grew up in Louisiana, and when I first started hearing about cruising on the Mississippi, I was like, really? I mean, I grew up there. It just wasn't appealing to me at first, right? When I tell you we had a fantastic time, the American Countess is absolutely beautiful ship. And you really not only, so on an itinerary like from, Memphis and New Orleans, you're going to get the music vibe, right? So being in Memphis, having a chance to experience Beale Street, going on down to New Orleans and experiencing Bourbon Street, the history of the Delta Blues all the way down to the history of jazz in New Orleans, right? And then along the way, the history along that river. There's a lot of history. Okay. And just some of the various experiences that are along the way. And I'm going to say this, and some people get a little uncomfortable, but there were even some of the plantation homes along the way that were absolutely beautiful. Some people may not always be comfortable with some of the history there, but it's history. You know what I'm saying? So when I tell you, and there was one experience, it ties in with the holidays that they did, and it's called a Bejeweled Christmas. This lady and her husband, they own a plantation home estate. And throughout the home, they have Christmas trees and Christmas decorations, and every Christmas tree has jewels. There are jewels throughout this home during Christmas that is absolutely, it will blow you away. And it's called the Bejeweled Christmas Experience. And that's on American Queen Voyages.
Are we talking
I cannot believe it.
Actual gemstones on the trees? Or
I'm talking actual gemstones. Wow. This lady has a collection of jewels that will blow your mind away. And it's decorated in every room with Christmas trees and Christmas decor throughout the house. She even has pieces that are from different celebrities. She has a piece in one of these rooms that's decorated in all this beautiful Christmas stuff that was actually from Gone with the Wind and belonged to Clark Gable, and it was his cigar case that she has a part of this collection. She has some amazing things, and when we went, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, really? What are we going to see here? But phenomenal. The Bejeweled Christmas was absolutely phenomenal. American Queen Voyages, and even the regional menus. And like I said, I grew up in Louisiana. I actually lived in Memphis. Okay. So I know that whole region very well. And when I tell you, they brought out an authentic crawfish etouffee, bisque, gumbo, all those things that are authentic to the region. They do a phenomenal job.
And Danella has me like salivating all over again. Now, I realize I haven't really introduced you to, well, I've been mentioning names, but if you don't know who these names are, Margie Jordan, the first episode, she owns a travel agency, and then she is also an industry executive with CCRA Travel. And you may have seen her in the media quite a bit, as she is really one of those relied on experts, especially in her local area. She's also a Florida girl like I am. And then Tom Carpenter, you may have heard his name because not only is he a travel advisor, but he is also an attorney for the media and travel industries. So if you are needing terms and conditions, agreements, or anything of the like drafted up, you'll want to make sure to reach out to Tom. There is contact information in the audio series, but of course, shoot me an email if you don't have access to that just yet. And then last but not least, we have Danella Richard. Danella Richard, many of you might know, she was a cruise line industry executive, and her job was eliminated because of everything that happened with the pandemic. You'll hear a little bit of her story at the beginning of her episode. And she was, I don't want to spoil like too much, but she got into media, and look what she did within 3 years span, heading into 4 years, the 7th season with Traveling with Danella Richard, a nationally syndicated television show that you can find on all sorts of different networks and things like that. There are links within the audio series as well to help you find her show and tune in to the upcoming season that's starting in January. All right, our next interview is with Jono McKee from Hurtigruten. So yeah, we're going to do some expedition cruising here, folks. Let's dig in.
And an interesting point of fact, the official Ecuadorian equator monument is not on the equator because it was set up before modern day GPS, and they figured it out a few hundred years later. So we also take you to a secondary museum that's the unofficial but closer to the real equator. When I looked at my GPS, I was at like 0.00003 south of the equator. So you know that's how close you really are. Then what we do is we have a flight. We get everybody on one flight, and we actually fly them out to the Galapagos. And that saves time because there's not a whole lot going on between mainland and the Galapagos. So we get you right there. That afternoon, you're departing, and you're already making your first stop that afternoon, the afternoon of boarding. So fun. Even on a 4-night cruise, you're likely to get 7 to 8 stops. We'll have usually 2 a day, sometimes 1 in the morning before disembarking, and 1 that very first afternoon. And what's really great is 98% of the time, we're the only ship at our stops.
Love that. So it's even a little bit more authentic if you're being able to like enjoy it in a smaller group.
Oh, absolutely. When I went, we had about 4 or 5 groups, and no one group was bigger than 15 people. And even the larger groups were just because of some of the way the family dynamics worked out. We didn't want to separate families. So maybe we had one group of 10 and another group of 14. But it was because there was a family of 4 that needed to fit in somewhere. We're always going to work with our guests to do what's best for them. And you have your own guide. So there were, at the time I went, there were 4, 5 guides on board. And they all speak English and they all speak Spanish. And most of them were natives of the Galapagos themselves. So they grew up there. Not only are they licensed national park guides, but they're from the Galapagos. This is their history and their culture as well. And the sparkle in their eyes when they're talking to you about it, and like when you're asking questions, you are not a burden on them. They want to share this information. They love how inquisitive the people who are coming here, because not everybody's going. It's not, it's not something that people are just sitting around going, let's go to the Galapagos.
Hmm.
The people who want to go there are really going for a reason. They're going for nature and wildlife. And maybe some of them are going for a little bit of history with Darwin and evolution and
Mm,
all of that history. So I can't speak highly enough about it. And I know we're mostly talking about winter holidays, but
right.
when I take my family next year, we're actually going for the spring holidays. It's how we've chosen to spend
Fun.
that time.
Okay. So when you have gone to the Galapagos, what would you say was your favorite island or the favorite experience, the favorite moment that you had?
I have two, and they're
Okay.
equal but different.
Okay.
Um, Give me a moment. I have to think of the name. I know it looks like a little seahorse. I just need to remember if
Oh.
it's Fernandina. It is Isabella Island.
Okay.
So Isabella Island is not quite the westernmost, but it's towards the west, and it's the largest island in Galapagos, but it's also the home and the only home in the entire world of the flightless cormorant. So the
Okay.
flightless cormorant is not only endemic to the Galapagos, found nowhere else in the world.
Wow.
It's found only in one area of the Galapagos.
Wow.
And so that was really an amazing experience for me. Um, Not that I'm a birder, but it kind of got me interested in birding.
Right.
So I really liked that. And then another stop that we made is Post Office Bay. And this is an unofficial post office. It is
Okay.
hundreds of years old. It used to be used by sailors and pirates. And
Oh.
it is nowadays, it is a weatherproofed box on Floriana Island.
You have got to listen to the rest of that story that Jono mentions about this unofficial mailbox post office. It is, I've never heard anything like it around the world. And I had already wanted to visit the Galapagos Islands and see the flora and fauna and experience that area and that side of the world. But I think this amazing connection piece associated with this unofficial post office has me even more motivated to get closer to the Galapagos Islands. So make sure to check out that portion or the whole thing, of course, since you already have all of the episodes of his interview, because again, it's just so super heartwarming and very unexpected. Last but not least, we're going to another warm destination. So we've kind of skirted a little bit of the wintry destinations. Let's check out what the another area actually on the other side of the equator, how they celebrate the holidays with Renata West.
The weather is great generally,
Mm-hmm.
but when it's that warm outside, you really don't feel like roasting something in the oven and standing in a
Right.
hot kitchen all day. So generally, people will opt for a breakfast, have a family breakfast instead, maybe,
Okay.
or, still having that hot piece of roast meat, but having it sort of barbecue style with some, um, you know, lots more salads and stuff suitable for a warmer climate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so quite often Christmas Day is spent at the beach, and people engage in lots of sports on the beach. We have cricket.
Okay.
Beach cricket is quite a big sort of tradition. You'll see people playing cricket on the beaches. So it's a little bit more relaxed than what you would find up here. in North America.
Okay, now I knew that it was warmer there, but it didn't even make me think about the change in like what you would cook and prepare as a meal. Just the differences, because I'm thinking, yeah, if Christmas was during our summertime in North America, I don't think I would be roasting a turkey during that time either. That is going to get everything more steamy.
Yeah, but it creates opportunities for a little bit more fun as
Yeah.
well. So, for example, what you'll see at some of the resorts in Fiji and Tahiti is Santa will arrive by boat and he'll dish out the presents to the children. Sometimes he will paddle his own canoe in.
Mm,
They have a little bit more fun with it. And sometimes Santa's wearing shorts as opposed to long pants
nice.
just because it's so hot.
Right.
So you have some fun kind of adaptation to the Christmas theme, I guess.
I love that. I love that Santa comes through a boat and not necessarily a sleigh through the chimney. So tell us a little bit
hmm
more about like when we're thinking about holiday destinations. I know there's going to be a lot of people that would prefer to like be in a warmer area. What are some what are some places in the South Pacific that kind of like match that holiday feeling?
Yeah, so obviously it is summer down there, and so with that, it is in high demand. So that's one thing to consider for our travel advisor community is that this is going to be peak season.
Hmm.
Obviously, festive is peak season everywhere, but
Right.
particularly because the weather is good, this is high season and in high demand. So what you're going to have to do is, if you're if your clients are interested in South Pacific festive, you're going to have to book it 3 to 4 months in advance to
Hmm.
secure those reservations. But it's worthwhile doing, and it's for a number of reasons. Number one, it's just a novel way to spend the holidays in the warm instead of being in the cold. I
Right.
think you've got to try it at least once um, to sort of experience what the other hemisphere experiences. But number two is that New Zealand, in particular, is one of the first countries in the world to see the sun. So it sees the new day and the new year first. So that's why the New Year celebrations are quite a big deal down there, and it sort of starts off the celebrations all around the world. So quite often you'll see the fireworks going off in Sydney Harbour Bridge or in Auckland,
Okay.
and they're even, that you can create some fun travel experiences. Leonardo DiCaprio in the new millennium in the year 2000 actually started his New Year in Sydney and then flew back across the date line.
Okay.
And I think he stopped in one of the Pacific Islands. It's either Cook Islands or Samoa. And he celebrated New Year all over again. And then got back on the plane and up to LA and had New Year for a third time. So you had, that was quite a fun and novel way to see in the new millennium with
Right.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't know about you, Travel Pro, but I did not realize until this conversation with Ren that you could be one of the first people in the world to celebrate New Year's from New Zealand, because New Zealand is one of the first places to experience the new year. And that is another thing that I am personally adding to my own travel bucket list, is to be able to be one of the first people to experience a new year by being in New Zealand for that time. And with the conversation with Ren, what I realized a lot was that I feel the South Pacific has very similar but also different cultures to Latin America, because what you'll hear is he talks about something that reminded me of when we roast the pig, the lechon, for Nochebuena and Christmas Eve and all that. So it was just really interesting and endearing to hear that a whole other side of the world does something very similar to kind of like how I grew up. And also, you know, seeing the differences that we all have, because I know a lot of people celebrate Christmas. You are going to hear a little bit about Diwali. You're going to hear a little bit about Hanukkah during this. There's just so many amazing holiday experiences and destinations that you can experience. I will have visited that Star Legend. You heard me talking about it with Tom a little bit. So I will, in a couple of weeks, give you like a recap of my journey in the Star Legend and on the Mediterranean in wintertime. But until then, I hope that you have the most festive of holiday seasons this year. Make sure to take some time for you. It is important that even though we may have clients that are traveling, or you may be traveling as well, that you also put some boundaries and cap your capacity a little bit so that you can enjoy the most wonderful time of the year with your family and friends, doing all these amazing things. So I hope that you have enjoyed these snippets from the Unique Holiday Experiences audio series. And of course, you can grab it now for just $9 and listen into the full-length episodes at your leisure, maybe while you're going off to travel. So we'll see you next time. Merry Christmas, happy late Kwanzaa, or happy late Hanukkah, happy early Kwanzaa as well. A happy solstice, happy everything. We'll see you next week on the podcast, everyone. Bye.